Grandad's Teeth by Clement. Help! I've been robbed! We heard Grandad shouting. It's a disaster! Come quickly. He was still shouting as Mum, Agatha and I ran up the stairs. Grandad's room was a mess, but to be honest, it was always a mess. He blamed Gump, his old dog, but Gump looked too old to make much of a mess to me. What was taken? Gasped Mum. Your video? Your television? Not your gold-plated golfing trophy. No, said Grandad. It's much more serious. It's my teeth. They've been stolen. Grandad normally kept his teeth in a glass of water by the bed. The glass was still there, but the teeth were missing. You haven't swallowed them by mistake, have you? Asked Mum. Of course not, replied Grandad. Those teeth were special, handmade by the finest Swiss craftsmen. Agatha looked at Mum and they whispered, why is Grandad talking funny? You see how serious it is? Moaned Grandad. I may never speak the same again. Are you sure you've looked everywhere? Asked Mum. Under the bed? Behind the cupboard? In all the drawers? Yes, replied Grandad with tears in his eyes. I've looked everywhere. Mum called the police. Inspector Rate looked grave. We've made a thorough search of the room and house and we've found nothing at all. No teeth, no clues. Everyone was at home at the time of the theft. So how the thief got in and out without being seen is a mystery. Can you give us a description of the stolen articles, Mr. Pertwhistle? Grandad frowned, rubbed his chin, then he looked closely at the inspector. Could you smile, please? He asked. Smile? Yes, a nice big smile. Inspector Rate grinned sheepishly. No, shouted Grandad angrily. I mean really smile. Inspector Rate smiled broadly. Grandad leant forward, tapped the inspector's teeth with his finger and growled suspiciously. They look just like those. The inspector looked shocked. I've had these for years. The inspector took us all down to the station for further investigation. Using Grandad's description, the police artist drew a picture of the missing teeth. They put up our wanted poster with the others. We made copies and put them up all over town. Inspector Rate rounded up the usual suspects and took them in for questioning. All of them were asked to smile. Most of them had missing teeth as well, but just one or two, not the whole set. They even brought in Grandad's unfriendly neighbour, Mrs. Carbuncle, because her own teeth didn't fit. But Grandad didn't recognise her or the teeth in the police lineup. I've never seen her smile before, he explained to the inspector. After several days, the inspector had to admit that no teeth had been found, no thief had been caught, and no new clues uncovered. Grandad suspected everyone, especially anyone who didn't smile. Soon the whole town was smiling at him. Although he never smiled back, he had nothing to smile with. Mum even got a call from one of those TV shows, Unsolved Crimes. They came to the house in a helicopter. We had to reenact the whole thing. When Grandad was interviewed, he asked the presenter, Pearl White, if he could borrow some of her teeth. After all, he mumbled, you have more than enough. Dad rang Switzerland to find out how much a new set of teeth would cost. He was so shocked when he found out. He dropped the phone. The only way we could ever afford it, he joked to Mum, is to sell the house. Grandad thought this was a great idea. Who needs a house anyway, he moaned. It doesn't help if you chew your food. To cheer him up, we all took Grandad to the fun park. It was a disaster. He took one look at the front entrance and burst into tears. Everyone watched Unsolved Crimes, but no one rang the inspector, and the crime remained unsolved. Some spare teeth were left in the letterbox, but none of them fit properly. People began locking their doors at night, imagining a teeth thief loose on the streets. No one knew who would be next. Fear gripped the town. The thief had to be caught, and soon. It seemed the only way to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the teeth in your head were your own was to smile broadly at every person you met.
Anyone who didn't smile was immediately dragged off to the police station for more questions and a chat with Inspector 8. So everyone began smiling at everyone else, all the time, everywhere, even at funerals. Because of Grandad's teeth, the whole town was beginning to suffer. Tourists, seeing the endless sea of smiling faces, were too scared to get out of their cars. After a while, they stopped coming altogether. Dad's cafe, like the rest of town, was losing business. The mayor called an emergency meeting. That night, for the first time that anyone could remember, the church hall was full. Speaker after speaker stood up to complain about the loss of customers and the constant strain of smiling all day, every day. Pastor Butter summed up the situation. "While I've always considered this a happy town, there are limits. No one wants to smile without reason. And there aren't many reasons to smile in this town at the moment. It's time, I believe, to put a stop to it." The crowd cheered. Mr. Pertwhistle had one of the finest sets of teeth in the country, and he alone cannot afford to replace them. In fact, I alone could not afford to replace them. But if every one of us put in $1 in the collection plate tonight, we would have enough money to buy 2 sets of teeth. Most people put in $1, others put in 2. At the presentation ceremony, Grandad opened the parcel and revealed 2 sets of brand new teeth. "Why are they different sizes?" asked the mayor. "Oh, only one of them is for me," replied Grandad, popping one of the sets into his mouth. "The other one is for Mrs. Carbuncle. Her teeth never fitted properly, and she has such a pretty smile." Grandad was very happy with his new teeth, and so was Mrs. Carbuncle. They smiled all the time. In fact, they were so happy that Grandad's old dog Gump smiled too. For the first time ever,